Right now, there's a battle brewing for the very soul of Britain, and it's being fought between two of the most well-known figures on the nationalist scene. So today, we're going to dive into this ideological clash between Steve Laws and Tommy Robinson. And just to give you a sense of how intense this is, you have to start with this. This is a quote from Steve Laws. It's blunt, it's personal, and it really just cuts right to the heart of the debate. Who gets to be called British? Okay, so let's start with a guy most people already know, right? Tommy Robinson. For a long time now, he's basically been the face of street-level patriotism in the UK. He's our starting point. Now, his public life has been, well, a roller coaster. He helped start the English Defence League, the EDL, back in '09, and it just blew up. But you know, his activism has been one long string of legal fights and stints in prison. He even famously quit the very group he started. And this gets to the core of what he believes. Robinson has always said his fight is against Islamic ideology, not against having a multiracial country. I mean, the EDL actually used slogans like black and white unite and had separate groups for Hindus, Sikhs and Jews. For him, it's all about sharing British values. That's what makes you British. But now there's a new player in the game. Enter Steve Laws, and he is coming in with a much more radical view, as basically throwing out the old playbook and rewriting the rules of this entire debate. See, Laws' message is incredibly direct. There's no room for negotiation. It's not about patriotism based on shared ideas. For him, it's about something he sees as way more fundamental, you know, blood and soil. And this is where it gets so different from Robinson's old world view. Laws is calling for total remigration. He says Englishness is literally in your bloodline. He completely dismisses Robinson's vision of a multiracial society and sees it as a total failure, a weak compromise that didn't work. So what you have here are two freight trains on the same track heading right for each other. It's an ideological collision. Two completely different philosophies are fighting it out. And it all boils down to that one huge question. Who actually means to be English? And this is where the rubber really meets the road. For Steve Laws, it's all about your family tree, your identities based on bloodline. So the policy, total remigration. If your roots aren't deep in English soil, you're considered foreign. End of story. For Tommy Robinson, it's about culture. Your identity is based on shared values. So the policy is about stopping Islamization. To him, foreign doesn't mean a different race, it means someone who rejects British culture. But here's where this whole thing gets even more fascinating. This internal fight isn't just happening in a bubble, it's actually having a huge effect on the entire political conversation. It's a classic example of what analysts call the Overton window effect. You have political commentators like Sargon of Akkad looking at this, and what they see is Steve Laws staking out the most extreme position imaginable. By demanding something as absolute as sending every foreigner home, he's creating a new hardline end of the spectrum. Now, the Overton window, if you're not familiar, is basically the range of ideas society thinks is acceptable to even talk about. But the trick is, when someone pushes a really radical idea way out on the fringe, it can actually drag the entire window of what's acceptable along with it. Suddenly, ideas that once seemed extreme start to look a lot more reasonable in comparison. And here it is, the big aha moment, spelled out by the commentator Cheerful Brutus. Because Laws' position is so far out there, the guy who for years was seen as the ultimate extremist, Tommy Robinson, is suddenly being reframed. All of a sudden, he looks like the moderate in the room. His Civic Nationalism starts to sound like a centrist compromise. So, what does all this mean? It means the nationalist movement in Britain is standing at a massive crossroads. There are two totally different paths being laid out, two completely divergent visions for the country's future. On one side, you've got the Robinson path. That's the vision of a multiracial Britain where people are united by shared cultural values against the common enemy. Then you have the Laws path, a homogeneous, ethnically English nation, which would be created by removing anyone who doesn't have those deep ancestral ties. And here's the thing, you can't have both. These two futures are completely incompatible. So, in the end, this conflict is so much bigger than just two men. It's really about the future direction of an entire political ideology. And as this debate gets louder and more intense, it really forces us to ask a crucial question. Will the future of patriotism in Britain be defined by shared culture or by shared blood? Thank you for watching the Daily Bollocks. Like, subscribe and comment. See you next time.